Hi guys, this is Dr. Pinkey, and today we were not able to come to you via the live stream because of an encoding issue. However, I am by this link sharing the PowerPoint presentation that I prepared for today's event. Now, I am going to send you a Zoom link for a conversation next week because this was supposed to be a conversation between us where you get to discuss the issues that you're dealing with remote work, remote learning, and just being in this remote culture. And if you have some tips and some things that you find that work well doing remote work, for example, to keep you from being stressed out or burned out, share that. I want our conversation to be a time of sharing and a time of caring and a time of help. So, again, my apologies for our not being able to live stream to you today. I thank you all so much for your willingness to participate in this event. And I will send out a link, an invitation for Zoom so that we can actually have that conversation aspect of today's event. This is Dr. Pinky. So now let's go to the presentation. Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Pinky, and I thank you all for being here today. And welcome to Managing Stress in a Remote Culture. Now, in March 2020, the coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic was announced. With that announcement came fear, anxiety, and uncertainty surrounding the coronavirus. And there's still a lot of fear and uncertainty about that virus. And it's a major stress inducer for people. With the announcement of the pandemic, many of us reacted to the event with lockdowns, but we still faced issues of how to continue conducting business. There were job losses, personal finances were affected, economic impacts, remote learning, parent as teacher, and job responsibilities. These were all some of the major concerns that were brought on by the pandemic. And I especially want to call attention to the added stress that many of you are dealing with, and you're doing double duty or triple duty, working remotely while helping your children who are also engaged in remote learning, and you're juggling other family responsibilities as well. All of these responsibilities can weigh heavily on your mental and physical well-being. Now, these are just some of the challenges that come with remote work. People often experience a lack of social interaction or they feel disconnected because you're sitting in a room with a computer for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. There's probably maybe no other individuals there except you. You don't have that same kind of interaction as if you were on site, being able to work with your colleagues and coworkers and take coffee breaks and things of that nature. That's not happening during remote work. There's also disharmonious work-life balance because people are working longer hours. Usually there's no time clock, so people have a tendency to find themselves working uncommon hours, late hours, and that puts a strain on the family relationships in quite a number of these cases. And as I just said, the lines between work and life are often blurred. And I've experienced that myself. It was nothing for me to look up and it was 6 o'clock or 8 o'clock when I was communicating with a student or sending an email or working on a project, because there was no time for me to let's shut down, collect my things, get in my car and go home, because I'm already home. So that element of commuting was removed, and I talked to a lot of people and I find that this is one of the downsides of remote work. That timeline is blurred and people end up working more hours than they normally would if they were at a physical work site. Some of the other challenges in remote work are meeting fatigue. You may be in 2, 3, 5 meetings a day. It depends on your level of responsibility at your job. There may be a number of meetings built into a day. Some of these meetings may start early in the morning and roll over into the night. So, people are experiencing meeting fatigue, burnout, and not taking time out for yourself. It's very important that remote learning, remote work, whatever you're doing in a remote culture, you have to take some time for yourself. I even recommend scheduling some me time, scheduling some time for self-care, because if you're not well, that's going to impact your work and your life, your mental abilities and your physical abilities as well. So it's very important to avoid burnout by taking time out for yourself. Now, Microsoft's Work Trend Index report, for example, looked at the impact of the pandemic on well-being at work globally. Now, within the first 6 months after the pandemic started or had been announced, 48 there was a 48% increase in chats per person overall. There was a 55% increase in meetings and calls per week. There goes that meeting fatigue. There was double the number of chats being sent after hours, or people engaging in chats after hours, work-related chats. 69% more chats per person happen after hours. And there was a 31% increase in burnout at work among U.S. workers. This was a global study and a report. However, I just chose to zero in on U.S. workers since that's who we are. And I also included the source so that you can actually look that up and read the report yourself if you want to delve into it a little bit more. Now, stress is your physical reaction to the environment. In this case, the environment of remote work and being in a remote culture. Stress quickens your heart rate, increases your breathing, and increases your blood pressure. And when you're constantly under stress, your adrenal glands overproduce the hormone cortisol. And overexposure to this hormone can affect the function of your brain, your immune system, and other organs. And chronic stress can contribute to heart attacks, headaches, anxiety, depression, and even premature death. So, to avoid or minimize these effects, I suggest the following things. First, meditation. I'm a big proponent of meditation, and research shows that consistent meditation can decrease stress and burnout, and it can improve your ability to react to negative feedback. Meditation has been extremely effective in relieving stress, anxiety, and burnout. And meditation is believed to help lower your blood pressure, improve your connection with yourself or your inner self. And there are many forms of meditation. So you have to kind of research it, explore it, and decide which form of meditation is best for you. I have, for many years, used a technique that I call blank slate, where I just kind of blank out my mind, get all of the things that I'm looking at from day to day. I try to put those things aside, do some deep breathing to kind of calm down. I'm going to be in a closed room in a quiet environment in order to do that. And I don't do as much meditation now as I used to, but I had gotten up to 45 minutes to an hour of just meditation. It contributes greatly to mental clarity. When you're able to clear your mind, it helps you to de-stress. So meditation is very important, and I recommend it. You can also contact your healthcare provider. Some of the hospitals have fitness programs and meditation programs as well. So this is something that I would highly recommend that you look into. Exercise. Exercise or engaging in some form of physical activity is another way to relieve stress and anxiety and burnout and any of those things that are associated with working in a remote culture. Exercise increases your overall health and your sense of well-being, and exercise directly contributes to relieving stress by pumping up your endorphins. Physical activity may help increase the production of your brain's feel-good neurotransmitter, which is better known as endorphins. Any kind of physical activity like aerobics or yoga are good, or even just getting out and taking a walk, maybe some of the nature trails around your area, or take a nice drive to a nature trail and just kind of walk. But any physical activity is really going to help you. Enjoy some FaceTime with family and good friends, and that can be a welcome break from the stresses and perils of remote work. One of the things that I recently took part in was a virtual happy hour with some of my coworkers, and I didn't know how that was going to work, but it was a very enjoyable event. It was really great. It took the focus off work, and people were able to relax. Folks had libations, snacks, meals, and we used Zoom, and we were able to just kind of sit and converse with each other. A lot of laughing went on, so that released a lot of stress, and it was a really feel good, great event. So I would suggest with your coworkers, friends, or family, doing something like that, doing a virtual event, a virtual happy hour, virtual game. You might even do a Facebook watch or something like that, where you all decide to watch a movie together and comment on it and things of that nature. But it's really fun. People are even doing virtual parties and things of that nature. It's just something to sort of help you to relax and unwind and take your mind off of some of the stresses from day-to-day work, especially if you're working remotely. And it sort of builds a sense of community and camaraderie. So I recommend, we're working remotely, so use this avenue to your advantage and have some fun with it. Important, know your triggers. It's important to understand the events that trigger your anxiety, that raise your stress level, your blood pressure. And by knowing what your triggers are, you're better able to recognize those situations that would sort of set you off, and be able to better navigate how to handle those situations. There are some situations that you just can't avoid. For example, maybe you're taking care of a sick family member or a sick child. Maybe you're dealing with a lot of bills that are coming in. These things are triggers. So if you know this, you're able to maybe reframe your attitude toward those situations. In the case of a sick family member, you can't really do anything about that. You're there, you're one of the primary caregivers, but you're also trying to manage work and possibly other family as well. So taking a different approach to it, changing your mental attitude about it, instead of seeing it, for example, as a dreaded thing that, oh my gosh, I've got to do this, look at it as you're helping, and you're making someone feel better, you're helping someone to wellness, just taking a different type of approach to it. That takes some practice, and you have to get mentally prepared for that. There's Psychology Today, for example, actually has a survey, a questionnaire, where you can answer several questions, respond to several scenarios or whatever, to help you identify your triggers. And I believe they also give you some suggestions and strategies for how to minimize and navigate those particular triggers. So that's all about knowing you and knowing those situations that trigger things with you. What about what in remote work actually is a trigger for you? These are things that you want to identify so that you can better handle them. Let's talk. So, as I said at the beginning, this was designed to be a conversation more so than a presentation. And I really want to hear from you and hear about the challenges that you've been experiencing during this whole remote learning, remote work, remote climate. today we had some encoding issues, so we weren't able to live stream. My apologies for that. However, I do want us to be able to engage in this conversation, hopefully next week or the week after that. Obviously you're receiving this link to the video part of this, so let's maybe see if we can come together and discuss the perils and the stresses that you're dealing with in remote learning. And also, if you find some things that work to help you better navigate and to relieve the stress of remote working, let's do that. Let's share that as well. So I want the next phase to be a time of sharing and conversation. So I will be sending out an invite, and we'll be able to do this. And I think we'll use Zoom to do that. Zoom is better, so we don't have to worry about the live streaming aspect or encoding. But I will send out a Zoom link, and perhaps maybe next week we can engage in the conversation part of this. And in the meantime, you'll be able to show this to your coworkers, your students, and share it. And I will allow time when we come together again if you want to actually see this video again, and then we start our conversation. So again, guys, thank you all so much for your patience and being willing to be here today for the live stream. So next week, let's plan on getting together and actually having a conversation. It'll be a Zoom link, and I'll get that out to you. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and reduce your stress. This is Dr. Pinkey. I'll talk to you later.